Hello, hello. Good morning, traders. How are we doing today? I hope you guys are all doing quite well. My name is Jason Krutzky. It is a pleasure to be with you this Wednesday morning, bright and early, for the good old CPI announcement. Excuse me. I had to clear my throat there. I hope you guys are doing good. How is everyone today? Are you enjoying your trading this week? It has been a boring couple of days, I must say. If you've been trying to trade this week, it has not been the most fun. If you're trading the indices, I know that there are names out there that are having nice volatility and presenting great trading opportunities. If you're trying to trade the futures or the index ETFs, it's a slightly different story. Talk to me, guys. There's a few of you here this morning. How are you doing today? Where are you tuning in from? Please say hello in the chat. And let me know what your expectations are for the move today. Across the board, it seems like CPI numbers are expected to be fairly muted, at least relative to last month. We had a 5% year over year reading last month's CPI. They are generally expecting the same. Consensus is for that number to stay flat, 5% again this month. There are a few folks who are estimating a little bit higher, a few folks estimating a little bit lower. And there are all kinds of estimates going around about what the market is going to do if things come in hotter or cooler than anticipated. I would encourage you, as your friend here from TrendSpider, I would encourage you to take those guesses of what the market's going to do and how it's going to react with a little bit of a grain of salt. Nobody knows the way that the market is going to go. We could have a reduction in the CPI print and markets could go lower. You could have an increase in it and markets could go higher. We don't know. But the estimates are suggesting the otherwise. So, yeah, I don't know. What are you guys thinking? Mary Bell, how are you? Good morning from Toronto. Thank you for tuning in. Good morning, TH. Great to see you as well. Well, I can't see you, but I know that you're here and I appreciate it. I wanted to kind of first thing this morning, I kind of wanted to point to something that I've been seeing a lot of other traders that I pay attention to mentioning, and that is the extremely low volume, relatively speaking, lower volume the past couple of days than we've had. I mean, it's been really some time. I'm just kind of looking at this volume, the lower volume indicator here. It looks like we had one day back in April that was pretty low, but what I had read was we hadn't seen a lower volume day than yesterday since November last year. That's this day right here. Good morning, Lori. Hey, it's been a minute since I've seen you. I hope you're well. Yes, we will. We'll let the charts decide. Exactly. That is the idea. Let price action dictate where things are going to go. Don't let some assumption from some banker be the reason why you get into or out of a trade or, the direction of your trade. But I wanted to do a little look in and see just kind of like where we're at. So we had 30 on SPY yesterday, almost 38 million in volume, 37.97 million in volume, and the average is 6.55 mil. So what I wanted to do, I just wanted to see when RVol, so RVol, for anybody who doesn't know, RVol is relative volume, an RVol value of 1. We're going to use RVol to do a little strategy testing here. An RVol value of 1 means you have the same amount of volume as you would normally have, as your average. So on your volume indicator here, this little blue line, that represents 14, the average of 14 periods worth of volume. So we know that the average is at 60.558. I'm just reading the blue number right here. We know that the average is at 60.558 million. So an RVol value of 1 for the day would mean that we traded 60.55 million shares. If RVol was 2, it'd be 120 or so, right? If RVol was 0.5, it'd be 30. So RVol is a way to gauge relative volume, right? How much volume did you have today relative to, or how much volume did you have this session relative to the average of the last X sessions. And of course, you could change the moving average length. You can make it 14. You could have it's by default, it's 20. You could have it at 100, 200 if you wanted to kind of flatten out that line, make it more of an average. Do whatever you want. But I like to test anomalies. I like to just kind of see how often do we have our vol that's less than 1 or less than maybe even quite less than that, maybe like 0.6 or 0.5. So we'll test it. So we'll say R vol less than a constant value of, we'll say 0.5. And we'll just get out, I don't know, 3 candles later. We're just kind of curious to know how often we have these really low volume days, and kind of what the performance of a ticker is after those really low volume days. So you could see here, this was that November, what was it? The November 23rd, super low volume day. We would enter into the trade the following day, and then we get out 3 days later for a 1.6% profit. And the big thing that I'm trying to demonstrate here is just how rare these days are, these super low volume days. They don't come around very often. Down here at the bottom, you can see it says 114 positions analyzed across 26 years worth of data. So not a ton of data there, all things considered. You're talking about there's 260 trading days in a year. So you're talking about 114 total times that this index has had this sort of really low volume. And your win rate, 57% chance of a winning trade here. Your average win is 1.34%. Average return, not really anything there. So not a ton of data there. But, mostly it's just to understand the rarity of the event and if there's any alpha in that rarity. Sometimes there isn't. This clearly isn't a good trade to take, just based off of the no-go highlighting here. And obviously the performance isn't that good either. But knowing that these low volume days are rare and knowing how often they occur is really kind of the goal here. Scott Goldman, what's happening, man? What time frame do I use when I'm scalping SP? I'm guessing you mean SPY. So I very rarely trade the SPY, but I do trade the ES futures, which is essentially the SPY. And so as far as scalping is concerned, 15-minute to find my levels. Pretty much, I really try my very best to at least be on a 15-minute time frame to determine where my bigger levels are. And then I'll go down to smaller time frames for entries, 5-minute for an entry. Is usually my standard operating procedure. What about yourself? Curious, what's your practice there? So let me ask you guys this. We've got about 22 minutes before CPI gets announced. What tickers do you guys want to be keeping your eye on? I'm going to throw up multi-symbol view. And the last event that we watched, which was FOMC, these were the tickers that we decided on. We had SPY, QQQ, IWM, Bitcoin right here, TLT, CVX for the oil trade, Apple, KRE, regional banks here. We had VIXI, NVDA, Lori. Let's do NVDA instead of Apple. Works for me. We had the XAU USD. This is gold to dollar ratio. We had wheat, UUP, which is the US dollar index, McDonald's, and NASDAQ futures. So Lori, let's keep it to one major tech company, just because they're all kind of going to move the same. And Arizuan or Arizuan? Am I saying that right? Hopefully I got that right. Mr. Arshad. I'm going to keep it just MVDA. That was the first name I saw. So we'll go MVDA. And that'll cover your AMD too. And we got the Qs. Plus Ultra wants the SPX. So one thing about the SPX. Zwan. Perfect. Indexes, SPX, NDX. These are delayed by 15 minutes on the platform. So we're going to keep the SPY up. And I could throw a BS futures if you want. That's pretty much the same thing. Sometimes I like to watch, I mean, most of the time, if I'm honest, most of the time I'm watching index futures over the ETFs. Cool. So here's SPY. And the reason why is pretty obvious, right? 23 hours of price action is better than, it's more telling than, what, 18 hours of price? No, not 18. What am I talking about? I don't know. How many hours a day do the index ETFs trade? 14 hours? It's 6.5 during regular trading hours. Then there's 4 hours after hours, so it's 10.5. And then what? How many hours pre-market? What time is pre-market open on indexes? 4? 4 or 6, depending on your broker. So you're talking about like 13.5, 14 hours of price action on SPY versus 23-ish hours of price action on the index, or rather on the futures, ES and Q. That's why I personally like to watch the futures. Could U.S. inflation rate affect crypto? Yeah, of course it could. They are not mutually exclusive. Everything affects everything. Mr. Jarmo, good morning, sir. Hope you're well today. Mr. Shaw, GBP USD. We'll do that instead of the XAU. There you go, sir. I'm going to switch out CVX to something different. Let me make sure we have all the after hours turned on. Buenos dias, Julian. How are you today? Hope you're well. Do you guys have positions on right now? Are you trading anything in particular? And, or do you have expectations for what we might see here today? I was on a space yesterday. I don't know if anybody was tuned into the space, but I was on a space yesterday with a few quite smart folks. And pretty much across the board, the sentiment was that today might be a nothing burger. It might be a pretty boring, unimportant announcement. Last year, CPI readings, CPI data days were wildly volatile. And this year, they have not been as important of readings. It was suggested that perhaps the summer CPI data might be more important than this particular reading. I am not an expert in knowing why that's the case, but that's what they were saying. And I generally listen to people who are smarter than me, which is most of those people that I talked to yesterday. Wham Trader, what's up? Good morning. You're in GDX and SQQQ. Okay, interesting. I'm going to go back to QQQ here. Ooh, we got a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, so the thing that I was watching is this broadening range. I'm going to turn off the strategy tester real quick. I've got my moving averages up. I don't generally use moving averages too often, but when things start feeling a little better and acting a little better, I like to pay attention to them. And what caught my eye yesterday about them was just the alignment of them. Let me show you guys real quick. You've got your 200 SMA in white, and it goes down 100, 50, 20, 10. And so if you look at the alignment, 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, you have like perfect trend alignment with all of your moving averages in order, shortest to longest, top to bottom. That's usually a pretty decent sign. And something that we have not seen, I mean, properly, we have not seen this literally since the highs. You have to go back all the way to the highs to see trend alignment, meaning your longest moving average is below your next longest, below your next longest, below your next longest, below your next longest, right? We just had this happen just, what, 10 sessions ago, something like that. We just had this flip where the 200 actually went under the 100. That's a pretty big change of trend, right? I mean, it's definitely been trending higher for months, since October last year, really. That's where your lows were, and we've continued to make higher highs, higher lows. I think that what a lot of folks are paying attention to, at least on QQQ, is these August highs right here. What do we do when we get to these August highs? Because if you're a trend follower, price action trend follower, you have a low right here and you have a low right here, right? And then these are your lows in between that high. And what do we got? Lower lows, which technically would suggest that when you come up to this high, that you would fail, that you would not gain this high. Because trend would say you made a lower low, you would anticipate a lower high. And so really, your level is kind of somewhere in here. You give or take a few bucks on either side, but your level that you really need to get up and over is right here. 330, 331, 332-ish. Anybody who's bullish, the next thing they want to see is a move up and over and a hold. And that would be just another feather in the cap for the bulls. Right? SPY is in a different spot. It's not quite there yet, but you see the exact same thing. Let's see how its trend alignment is doing. It's in trend alignment too, right? As far as these moving averages are concerned. Really just for the past 4 days. You're in order from longest to shortest. And again, you have not seen that. When was the last time we really saw it? Weren't even really in alignment here. So really the last time you saw it was back at the all-time highs, or near the all-time highs. Kind of the lower low that took us down into the beginning of this whole move. I think these are fundamental changes of trend. Whether or not they'll play out, I don't know. But the same idea is true, right? You have the lower lows. In between your high that in theory we're trying to get up to. You have a low, higher, a high, a higher low, higher high, higher low, and now they're kind of failing it. So they really need to get up and over this guy. That's how I see it, Tony. How do you see it? Yeah, Julian, I think that's kind of where my head's at on it too. These events have become a speed bump. That's kind of what it feels like. I mean, FOMC was a relatively volatile day, but ultimately, last week, for all of the volatility that we had, just measuring from the close of 2 weeks ago to the close of last week, a negative 0.79% difference. For all that volatility, markets did nothing, really. John, that is not a question that I have a good answer to. Unfortunately. You could test all these things though, like that trend alignment. We could back test that and see what tends to occur 100 days after that happens. 200 days after that happens. I think really it's about, you're looking for pattern recognition, right? You're looking for times when the patterns align and seeing how they do. Yeah, Tony, regarding the VIX, I heard yesterday, or maybe it was the day before yesterday, I heard recently that zero DTE options, it's theorized that zero DTE options and more so the proliferation of zero DTE options is what's causing VIX to stay at these like suppressed levels. Now, I don't know if that's absolutely the reasoning behind it, but that's what I heard. And that was a new theory for me. Check MRK. Holy moly. This bad boy is strong, isn't it? I mean, hard to argue with this, right? No matter whether you think we're in a bull market or a bear market, whatever your belief is, hard to argue with all-time highs. Clearly, Merck is not. Merck is in a raging bull market. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what you're looking for out of this, but looks strong as can be. I wouldn't short it. What's happening, Robert? How are you? Doesn't mean there's not a short trade there. It's just looks darn good right now. I guess you could check and see if there's any signs of weakness under the hood. Let's see. One of my favorite go-tos is going to be RSI, specifically looking for divergence. And I mean, there is a little bit of divergence for sure. Just because it's divergent doesn't mean that it's going to play out, though. And for anybody who's in the audience doesn't know what I'm saying here, if you look at these highs and you look at RSI, and then you look at these highs in here and you look at RSI, see how RSI is decreasing as you're making new highs. Again, we made more new highs, RSI decreased again. So you do have kind of like a divergence there. But again, whether this will ultimately play out, it's hard to know. Yeah, Tony, no problem at all. I'm glad that I'm glad that they're helpful for you. The goal is to make stuff that's easy to understand and get you where you're trying to go, or at least helps you get where you're trying to go. Did you have a particular video that you found more helpful than others? The thing that I'm kind of curious about, you're talking about VIX and volatility in general. There is the saying, sell in May and go away. And historically, does that play out? I'm actually not, I'm not certain. If we look at seasonality, one thing we can always look at is seasonality to get an understanding of what happens in May. So just for Merck, your seasonality actually declines into the summer. Kind of interesting. And this is since 1973. There's a lot of data. But if we go to SPY, 68% win rate in SPY. So 68% of the time since 1993, SPY has closed green in May. That's not a bad percentage of the time. June, 50-50. June is your weakest performing month of the year with September. Right. And who eats an apple a day? Come on. How many people actually do that? NVO, GIS, LMT. Nice. Oh, nice. Right on, Tony. I'm glad that the unusual options helped you. Did you see the short about the data flow? And things you can do with the tags? Because this is pretty cool. KM, what's up, John? And what's up, Robert Brush? Good to see you, man. Hope you're well. Tony, this is kind of cool. On data flow, you can tag. And there is also a video on my feed. It's just a short video on my Twitter feed if you want to watch it at Krutzky Trades. If you just scroll down, I think I posted it maybe like, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks ago. But I don't post that much, so you'll probably be able to find it pretty quickly. But one of my favorite ways to read data flow, because data flow is going to be everything that's coming through. You know, with unusual options, they're nice because you can filter them out in a bunch of ways when you're looking at an individual ticker, but you're only seeing the unusual options for that ticker, right? With data flow, we can see all of the unusual options as they come in order. So this can move pretty fast, especially during the day. You do have to keep that in mind, but that's where your tags can become helpful. And one thing that I like to do is I like to look for sweeps above the ask. And why do I do that? The reasoning there is if they're paying above the ask, then they're really just trying to get exposure to that particular contract. And if they're sweeping, then not only are they just really trying to get exposure, they're trying to get exposure from wherever they can. So they don't have like resting orders. You know, they're not waiting for their bids or offers to hit. They're just like, I need to get in because they're sweeping above the ask. So these particular tags can help filter kind of more, potentially more meaningful orders. 3 minutes to CPI. Nice call, Mr. L. Let's pop over to our multi-symbol view. To anybody who's trading this today, good luck to you. I will be sitting this one out. John, I wish you luck on that KMX trade. I'm not sure what KMX is, but we can look at it when we're after this. One minute to CPI here. Let's see what we get today. Remember, estimates are in line with last month. Joshua, I am not live every morning. I'm usually just going to be live for events like this, data readouts, that sort of thing. But not every morning. But I am very accessible. You can feel free to reach out to me literally anytime. All right, initial move higher. Michael, I'm not always live. I was for pretty much the better part of this year. I've been going live Tuesday, Thursday mornings for pre-market. I have. But unfortunately, not enough people are showing up to those for us to feel like it's worth me going live Tuesday and Thursday mornings every week. But I'm always around to answer questions. So if you guys ever have any questions about the platform, you need help with anything, putting together a scan for an idea you have, or just whatever, you are absolutely more than welcome to contact me on Twitter. My DMs are open always. You are more than welcome to hit me up. While I've got a bunch of you guys here, do me a favor. Give me a like and a subscribe to this channel. We are going to be focusing now a little bit more on kind of evergreen-ish content, making more videos, more TrendSpider technical analysis series videos. We just released one. Sorry, got a little grease on my glasses here. We just released one on using ChatGPT to build a profitable trading strategy. Don't know if you guys saw it, but it was pretty cool. I never really used ChatGPT for that purpose before, but it worked great. It led me essentially to a strategy on Tesla that beat buy and hold by 300%. Pretty impressive. And it was like, excuse me, a super easy strategy. I think the one of the big takeaways for me on that was just that strategies don't have to be overly complex. They can be very simple. Why, Michael? Don't be scared. You got to embrace the new technologies, man. They're not going away. The rabbit is out of the hat. Yeah, this is a video. Here, I'll share it with you guys so you guys can see it. Hold on. And I'm going to be making quite more, not ChatGPT videos, but just videos in general. That's where that's where I'm going to be kind of focusing for some time. Here you go. Nice, non-believing believer. Yeah, VIX dumping. Your pound US dollar got a nice move. Yeah, Michael, don't be afraid to start tooling around on ChatGPT. I think it would behoove all of us to understand it a little bit better, at the very least, if not fully incorporate it into our lives, because I think it's inevitable anyway. So let me see here. Hey, thanks for the follows, guys. I appreciate it. Let me see. CPI. Month over month actual was 0.4, expecting 0.4. CPI year over year actual 4.9, expecting 5.0. So CPI came down by 0.1%. CPI core month over month actual 0.4, expecting 0.4. CPI core year over year actual 5.5, expecting 5.5. So 0.1% lower than expected on actual year over year CPI. Core was in line. Long UPRO. Well, Michael, again, I don't know, man. I think the rabbit's out the hat. So So you embrace or you get left behind, I think, is the reality there, man. And of course, I could be wrong, but I'm gonna go look at UPro real quick. I don't know what that is. Oh, Ultra Pro S&P 500. Yeah, John, I mean, right? I kind of agree with you there. But things coming down, you know, even by just a little bit. That's good. So later today, let me turn you guys on to this. Later today, I'm going to be catching up with some friends of mine on TrendSpider's Twitter Spaces. Let me share this with you. What's up, Jazzwinder? There you go, guys. If anybody's around this afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to be live. Hanging out with JC Peretz from All Star Charts. We've got Anne-Marie Band. She is at Anne-Marie Trades. We've got Brian Lund, BC Lund. We've got Michael Naus from Trade Ideas. And we've got Christian Fromhertz on the show, 1 p.m. Eastern today on Twitter Spaces. We're going to be catching up with these guys. We're just chilling, talking charts. So they're going to be bringing some ideas, some tickers that they've got their eyes on. We're going to be catching up here on CPI. I have a feeling most of these folks, you know, it's always an interesting crowd, the folks that I try to get onto our spaces, because some of them have very alternative views on the markets. And the reason why I have them on is because of their alternative views. They're not singing the same old song. And I have a feeling most of these folks will not even be watching the CPI print today. And that's half of the reason why I want to have them on the show on CPI day, because most of them I don't think are going to care, because they're all of the mind that only price pays. And who cares what CPI says? It's all about what price does. And I don't think that they're wrong. JG ENVX. What's ENVX? Looks like I've been watching, or I watched this at some point. I have lines drawn, but I haven't looked at this in a long time. I mean, I think to some degree it's already, you can already utilize ChatGPT for things in TrendSpider. I mean, I did it in that video, right? Like, I asked it to tell me how to script conditions in TrendSpider. It pretty much told me what to do. I asked it to explain how to use the Price Behavior Explorer, which is a tool in the strategy tester. It told me mostly what to do. Right? Now we have, for those of you who are developers, if anybody's familiar with JavaScript, we now have JavaScript scripting on the platform. For now, you can use this to build custom indicators. In the future, those custom indicators you'll be able to use those in your strategy tests. You'll be able to use them for your trading bots. You'll be able to get alerted on them, the whole 9 yards. And in theory, you could use ChatGPT to help you write the code. But I don't know. I don't know what the plans are for like a deeper integration, Tony. I'm sure that our dev team at least has an eye on it and is, loosely thinking about it, but I'm not sure what their plan is. Good morning, John Stanton. How are you? Hope you're well. What do I think about Salesforce? Robert, yeah, man. JC is great. Interestingly, Salesforce over its August highs. So Salesforce is actually kind of ahead of the Qs, huh? You had a big day on earnings last quarter. They've retraced the whole move, found support. I mean, it looks pretty good to me. You got earnings here, what, in 2 weeks on it? Let me go to a bigger time frame. They hold those. They held those. So your next spot that you probably be watching is somewhere like up in here. My guess, though, I would assume that this wouldn't be too important, only because they held the low here. If they had made a new low, if they had taken out this low, come down here maybe, and then bounced, then I would maybe anticipate a little bit more of a failure or somewhere around here. But since they held this low, I might be looking higher up here for an opportunity to potentially get short. But even then, I don't know. There might be a trade there, but that could be, some time away. It could take some time to get there. For now, though, they held all the lows. And you just can't deny these things if you are a trend follower. But this level might be important, that 213-ish, 213, 215. Let me see something real quick. Oops. Darn, hold on. Yeah, and there is a little kind of fair value gap in there too. So what I mean by that essentially is you had price make a big move down, right? This big bodied candle right here. And it never came back in to test it. And so you have some, the ICT traders would call this like an inefficiency in price. So you would anticipate that this would fill, that they would come back into this and test it and fail it at some point. So maybe you have a trade at like 210. You have to see what price does when it gets there. You could always come back into stuff down here, if the markets did decide to sell off a little. You kind of have a couple of patterns. You have this pattern, right? You have potentially inverse head and shoulders here that they haven't technically tested. So I'd be looking at that. But, I mean, looks super strong to me anyway. Yeah, right. I mean, it's all about your time frame, right? Like, depending on what your time frame is, Currently, it's trading up and over all of the moving averages. Hard to short it when it looks like this. Doesn't mean that you can't, but seems more appropriate to let it prove itself, you know? Like if, I don't know, I'm just tooling around here. Like if it starts making lower highs and lower lows and these moving averages start curling, right? But until then, all it's doing is making higher highs and higher lows. It's taking out important previous highs. That's what I'd say. So yeah, John, Tony, we're all in trend alignment in thinking and how we're seeing it. So curious question for you guys. Wow. Market's super strong. Hard to deny this. ENVX. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Charts like this are tricky to me. You put in a new low back in January, but you put in potentially a higher low in April. Oops. You got work to do on that trend alignment that we've been kind of talking about. I mean, relative to the indices, I don't know anything about this name. I don't know what they do. But relative to the indices, notice trend alignment is like completely opposite, right? Your 200 is above everything. You really want to see this below everything. But you've potentially put in a higher low. So then you'd be looking for a new high above 16 or above 15 and a half. So you would have anticipated, and they kind of did it, since you would have anticipated this failure up here, and they kind of did it. They mostly did it because they made the new low. You really would have anticipated a failure here, but maybe you had something happen on this day. I don't know, maybe it was earnings or some sort of fundamental news because they had a lot of volume that pushed it through. Let's go back to this one. I'm just anchoring VWAPs to some of these important highs. So November 2021 high, trading below anchored VWAP. How old is this? Yeah, actually, since this is a relatively new company, this seems like key. This company's been around since January of 2021. Anchor VWAP to the IPO. Actually, here you go. Do this too. This is worth doing. I'm gonna throw up volume by price. Just so we can see where the volume is, you know? You're up and over POC, point of control from IPO, which is good. You know, you have more volume at $11.50 than anywhere else So you want to see price above that. You're stuck below the VWAP from IPO. So your average buyer's still losing on this trade to the tune of like $1.40, right? Your average buyer owns this thing at like $14.50, which is part of probably why it rejected there initially back in April and March. Usually first tests. Usually these tests have a tendency to fail. You could see they actually did it here, so it wasn't even first test. We don't know exactly where this VWAP was back in November of last year, or back in June of last year. It potentially was at the same spot, but it's here now. So this is going to be a key spot, $14.50. Pretty key spot for this name. Really, I mean, supply overhead on this thing, it decreases as you get higher and higher, right? I mean, you could see it. So that's why I think this 14.5 spot is pretty important. Get up and over that and actually hold it, important. Yeah, so Tony, that doesn't invalidate. I don't think it invalidates the test because different names perform differently under different conditions. There is a fine line between curve fitting, but like using a 20 and 50, I don't know exactly. You're just looking for a crossover. So you're long when the 20 crosses up on the 50, short when it crosses down. I mean, that's a very basic thing to look for. That's not, you're not getting like super specific. Some names that's going to work better than others. If that's what you want to trade, then cool. If it works, I mean, the key there is that you have no-go highlighting, that you've taken enough trades where it actually makes sense. You want to have taken historically at least 50 trades. Yeah, it's loose fitting. It's not super curve fit. Because super curve fitting, then you do run the risk of like really blowing up. We can look at shop real quick though. I'm gonna go back. Yeah, market's still grinding higher. Crypto likes this news. Tech likes this news. Your British pound US dollar likes this news. McDonald's doesn't care. The dollar doesn't like it. Wheat doesn't like it, interestingly. Oil likes it. Well, crude oil likes it. Shop, interesting, right at the 200 week. What a move. Let's run your test real quick. I don't know if you had any other conditions in there. Oh, weekly, huh? Well, this is going to happen even less. Oh, EMA. Well, actually, I used EMAs. Are you sure you did it on the weekly? So the big issue here, it does perform relatively well relative to the asset. It's just that you only took 19 positions. Is it just 20 EMA greater than 50? So you're long when it's greater, you're short when it's lower? Or short when it's less than? Ah. Still think you're going to get the same. Yeah, you get the same thing. So your only issue here is that you only took 19 positions. And so that's just not enough data to say, yeah, this is worth implementing. Your average return is very high. And your average win is very high. Your average loss, negative 11.72. So the average return value is kind of more important than the average win value because you have to think about your losses. But the fact that you've only got 19 positions here, you kind of want to see more positions than that. Excuse me. Now you could go to a smaller time frame. So when you go to a smaller time frame, the performance isn't quite as good overall versus the asset. However, 64 positions. This is on the 2 hour. 42% win rate. Average return 4.15. Still pretty darn good average return. Thank you, 88. Thank you, Tony. Oh, you want to learn how to do that? You want to learn how to share the strategy? So let me show you. So we'll say 20 EMA greater than 50 EMA. And then we'll say save. And then just click the 3 dots next to save and say share this strat. And then just copy this link. And there you go. Any inside or outside bars on the daily? What do you mean, Austin? What are you looking for specifically there, bud? All right, John. Great to have you around. Have a great rest of your day. Trade them well. I'm going to be stepping out of here shortly, too. Austin, happy to help you with your question, though. Tony, all good, man. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for questions. You are here for asking them. Happy to have you. Thank you for being here. If anybody's around later on, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, Twitter Space. Should be a good one. Consolidating a bar inside a bar on the daily. Sure. So we'll show you this real quick and then I'll step out of here. On your scanner, go to condition, candlestick pattern. So maybe I think what you're looking for, we'll say daily and we'll say 3. That's your outside bar. And maybe we would want to say, what, 1 candle ago? So like yesterday was an outside bar. And then you would want another condition, candlestick pattern, daily. We'll say a 1, an inside bar. So yesterday was outside, today's inside. The only thing I would do here, in addition to this, is I would add some risk parameter or some like filtering parameters. Y'all know me. I always add like a price condition, price close greater than, constant value of, let's say, like $15, or, you know, just whatever you like to trade. And then I pretty much always add a volume condition too. So indicator daily volume, moving average greater than, constant value. And usually I'm looking for at least 1 million shares a day. Turn the current candle toggle on. We'll change our scan through list real quick. See what we get. And you could take this a step further if you wanted to. You could define this as like a green or a red bar by defining where price closed relative to where price opened. You'd have to use another parameter for that, but you can do it. Well, darn, this thing is moving slow, isn't it? So not much meeting your criteria, but this is how you would do it, Austin. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions about that? Maybe without price. Sure. Same two names. At least in the 500, you know, we could take this bigger. Your volume condition actually is going to filter more. Because 1 million shares per day. So maybe you would want to bring this down some or remove it. I don't know. It's up to you. No rules. I don't know exactly the tickers you like to trade. But see, I like to avoid stuff that's like this, 21 cents. You know, I'm never going to touch that. So mostly the idea here is to give you an idea, not to tell you what to do, but just to let you know how to do what you're trying to do and then give you an idea on how to kind of refine it a little. And you could also, like, outside bar, inside bar, you could also say, it's a little convoluted, but you could also say, like, you know, daily high is greater than price daily high. Like if you wanted to include the whole candle, high to low. Price high yesterday is greater than price high today. Price low yesterday is greater than price low, or less than price low. Oops. Right, you could define a bar the same way using price if you wanted. So know that that's available to you too. It's really all about what you're looking for. You can get as specific as you want, really. All right, you guys, I am going to get on out of here. I have a little bit of prep that I need to do. I have some things I got to work on before the space this afternoon with JC and the gang. So if you guys are around, please do join us. If you have questions for any of our guests, Again, that's 1 p.m. Eastern time. Join the space. Ask those questions in the chat of the space, and I will be happy to ask the questions on your behalf. If you're trading today, trade them well. Be safe out there. And we will see you all again very, very soon. I do not know exactly when I'll be back live, but sooner than later. Next big data announcement, I need to look on the economic calendar and see what's coming. But I'll be live for it, and hopefully you guys come hang out with me. All right, well, as always, pleasure seeing you all this morning. Thank you for joining me. Hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week. Holler if you need anything. My Twitter handle, @Krutzky Trades. Again, my DMs stay open. So if you guys have questions for me about anything, need help with anything, scripting, whatever, hit me up. I'm happy to help you. And yeah, y'all have a great rest of your day. And we'll talk again real soon. Greg, pleasure, sir. Austin, Michael, Tony, John, 88, JG. Who else? Robert. Yeah, we had a Joshua. We had an active gang in the chat today. I appreciate that very much. So yeah, have a great rest of your day. We'll see you all very, very soon, and take care.